For this week's edition of Growing Idaho, we're asking a question for one of our viewers. Where's the public transportation? A single mother in Kuna sent us an email. She's working hard to provide for her kids, but her car is on its last legs. And without that, it's going to be really hard to get around in the Treasure Valley. That's because for her, there are just too few public transportation options.
3, 2, 1.
Everywhere you look, things are growing. The population, homes, businesses, traffic. But what about public transportation to ease that traffic and move all these new people around? Not so much. That's something that Stephen Hunt, the Chief Development Officer at Valley Regional Transit, admits is true.
We haven't been able to keep up with growth.
If you didn't know, Valley Regional Transit, VRT, is the public transportation authority for the Treasure Valley. That includes specialized van services, paratransit, park and ride, but mostly buses. So why haven't we seen the number of buses on the road increase at the same rate as the population? As you might have guessed, it comes down to money.
There isn't any direct mechanism that would provide additional revenue for public transportation as the region grows. So that's the nut that we've been trying to crack for the last 20 plus years.
They do have bus fare, but those fares need to be very affordable. So while $2.50 for an all-day pass is a great value for riders, it doesn't really pay the bills for VRT.
It's not sufficient to cover all the operating costs by any means, and that's true for us, that's true for transit across the country.
So they also rely on federal grants, advertising revenue, and maybe the biggest source, cities in the Treasure Valley. But again, those contributions have not kept up with growth.
We are dependent on voluntary contributions from local jurisdictions to grow our operating budget. And so that means that when a city grows, we would have to go back and ask the city for additional revenue to be able to expand service.
Which they've been able to do in some ways. Meridian is seeing expanded service along Pine and Fairview, and there should be more busing options in Eagle and Kuna soon. But Hunt says it's much easier to expand service when cities are developed with public transportation in mind.
That really starts to matter how those buildings are constructed.
For instance, people have told him, hey, you should put a bunch of bus stops on Eagle Road. Fortunately, Eagle Road, also a highway, really was not built for bus stops.
So that is another barrier that we face, particularly in the valley, is ensuring that the infrastructure and the development is done in such a way that makes transit at least not offensive, right? At least it doesn't assault you when you're trying to use it. Like, oh my gosh, I've got to stand next to 60-mile-an-hour traffic.
But if that happens and we see public transportation expand at the same rate as our population, will people actually use it? People love their cars around here. Will we see more people willing to choose a bus over buying and driving a car to actually make the tax money put into public transportation worth it? Hunt says it's not about the question of if there's enough demand for public transportation, but rather, will there be an increased demand on just getting around?
I think you have to ask the question, well, is there traffic in the valley? Is there transportation demand that grows in the valley? And that is clearly yes. There's a lot of traffic and transportation demand in the valley. The question is, how can public transportation be used to help meet some of those needs? And the only way it's going to meet those needs is if the service is available.
Essentially, if VRT builds it, they will come, hopefully. Back to the email we got from the single mother in Kuna. Now, VRT says they are working with the city of Kuna to expand services there, and we'll be sending out a survey soon asking folks what sort of public transportation options they would like to see in Kuna. Until more busing options get out there or wherever you are, they do have other options, like a volunteer driver program. And to see all the options around you, you can go to their website. We have a link to that in this story at ktvb.com when it gets posted a little later this morning.